Every heartbeat you've ever heard carries a secret, written by women who have been dead for more than 40,000 years. They never saw your face, they never knew your name, but their DNA is still inside you, keeping you alive. And it all comes down to a single tooth. This is the story of how just one tooth from a teenage girl unlocked one of the most mind-bending chapters in human evolution, how our ghost mothers shaped our species, and how their legacy lives on in ways that would make Darwin's jaw drop. Welcome to the mystery of the woman who changed humanity forever. Let's start with what we actually know, which honestly isn't much. The Denisovans are humanity's most elusive relatives, and that's saying something, considering we only figured out Neanderthals existed back in the 1850s. So back in 2008, Russian archaeologists were digging through Denisova cave in Siberia, and they found something extraordinary, a tiny finger bone fragment. They figured it was from a modern human kid. Makes sense, right? But then, they sent it off for DNA analysis, and the results came back like a slap in the face to everything we thought we knew. This wasn't a modern human, wasn't even a Neanderthal. This was something else entirely. A completely unknown branch of the human family tree, hiding in plain sight for tens of thousands of years. Think about that. We know Neanderthals from hundreds of fossils scattered all over Europe and Asia. We've rebuilt their faces, studied their tools, sequenced DNA from dozens of them. Denisovans? We know them from scraps, a finger bone, a jawbone found its way up in Tibet, a handful of teeth, and most shockingly, one single molar from a teenage girl that rewrote the whole story. Right now, it's like trying to understand an entire civilization from a few broken pieces of pottery. Except these pottery shards, they hold the secret to how humans survived in some of Earth's most brutal environments. So let's dive deeper. Denisovans lived across Asia, frozen Siberian caves, the high Tibetan plateau, from roughly 300,000 years ago until about 30,000 years ago. But here's the kicker. Scientists have now found evidence of at least 3 separate times Denisovans and early humans interbred. These weren't just random hookups. This was a systematic blending of species. So who were they? Honestly, we don't know what they looked like, don't know how they lived, what tools they made, how their society worked. But we do know something incredible. They're still with us, hidden in our DNA, protecting us, guiding our survival in ways we're only just starting to grasp. To really get this, we gotta talk about the most important tooth in human history. In 2000, Russian scientists found this single molar in Denisova cave. For years, it just sat in a collection. Another ancient tooth among thousands. Nobody had any clue they were holding a time machine. When researchers finally analyzed it in 2010, they discovered it belonged to a teenage girl who lived somewhere between 48,000 and 30,000 years ago. But this wasn't just any girl, she was a Denisovan. And her tooth? It was about to blow the doors off everything we thought we knew. See, the DNA pulled from that tooth? Incredibly well preserved. So well preserved, scientists managed to sequence her entire genome. And what did they find? Mind-blowing. Her genetic signature was like nothing they'd ever seen. Clearly human, but different. Distinctly different from both us and Neanderthals. Turns out, Denisovans split off from the Neanderthal line around 400,000 years ago. But here's where it gets wild. While Neanderthals mostly hung around Europe and Western Asia, Denisovans spread huge. Siberia down to Southeast Asia, adapting to wildly different places. But the real bombshell? When scientists compared this ancient DNA to modern human genomes, that teenage girl's genetic signature, it wasn't just sitting in a museum. Oh no, it was sitting inside living people. Millions of them. That tooth revealed she belonged to a population that interbred with early modern humans, passing on crucial genetic adaptations that are still helping people survive today. One tiny tooth unlocked evidence of ancient connections, survival strategies, evolutionary leaps that shaped our species. Sure, we still don't know what she looked like. No name, no idea about her daily life. But we do know she carried genes that helped future generations breathe on mountaintops, fight off diseases, and thrive in places that would kill most mammals. That's the power of ancient DNA. One tooth from one teenager became a Rosetta Stone for understanding how these ghost populations shaped us. And the story it tells? Absolutely incredible. You know how some people can climb mountains without oxygen tanks, while others get winded walking upstairs? Well, that difference might literally be written in Stone Age DNA. Denisovan genes helped us adapt to extreme environments. We're talking high-altitude Tibet, the icy Arctic. The most famous example? The EPAS1 gene. It helps Tibetans process oxygen way more efficiently at extreme altitudes. And contrary to what some skeptics thought, this isn't a minor bonus. It's the difference between life and death above 14,000 feet. Crazier still, modern Tibetans carry a version of this gene that's virtually identical to the Denisovan one. Without it, their ancestors couldn't have settled in the Tibetan plateau. With it, they've built one of the world's most amazing high-altitude civilizations. But Tibet's just the start. In Papua New Guinea, people living at different elevations have different Denisovan DNA bits. Highlanders, variants linked to early brain development. Lowlanders, different adaptations for their environment. In Papua New Guinea and Australia, up to 5% of the genome comes from Denisovan ancestors. That's not trace amount. That's a serious genetic inheritance. What do these genes do? Everything. A 2024 study found Papua New Guineans, genetically isolated for 50,000 years, carry Denisovan genes that boost their immune system. In Southeast Asia, Denisovan genes help with diving and holding your breath underwater. Up north, they give resistance to cold. It's like these ancient people left behind a biological survival kit, custom designed for humans in extreme environments. Think about it. 40,000 years ago, a relatively small group of Denisovans was spreading genetic innovations across half the planet. They were like biological engineers, fine-tuning human bodies for different challenges. So when you see a Sherpa guide climbing Everest like it's a stroll, or a free diver holding their breath forever, or someone thriving in the Arctic cold, you might be seeing Denisovan engineering at work, ancient genes solving modern problems. And here's the wild part, we're still finding new ways these genes help us today. Every year, researchers uncover new Denisovan variants, linked to immune function, brain development, disease resistance. The list goes on. So why call them the woman who changed humanity? It's not just clickbait, there's solid science behind it. When geneticists trace how Denisovan DNA flowed into modern humans, they notice something curious. A lot of the evidence points to Denisovan women playing a big role in interbreeding with early modern humans. Here's the likely scenario. When early modern human groups met Denisovan populations, the most common pattern seemed to be Denisovan women joining the modern human groups. Honestly, that's not weird. Throughout history, women often moved between groups for marriage, alliances, or survival during conflicts. But here's why this matters genetically. Certain DNA, like mitochondrial DNA, gets passed on only through the mother's line. So when Denisovan women had children with modern human men, they passed down not just regular nuclear DNA, but also their mitochondrial genetic heritage. This creates a ghost lineage, a population we can detect genetically. But that doesn't exist as a separate group anymore. These Denisovan mothers vanished from the archaeological record, but stayed embedded in our genes. Now, this doesn't mean Denisovan men didn't contribute. They absolutely did, but the pattern suggests Denisovan women might have been especially key in passing on survival adaptations to the mixed groups. Basically, these women carried the genetic instructions for high-altitude survival, cold resistance, supercharged immunity, who knows what else. When they had children with modern humans, those kids got the best of both worlds, the tools and culture of modern humans, plus the biological superpowers of Denisovans. These weren't random genetic swaps, these were mothers passing down survival manuals written in DNA, instructions for thriving in places that would kill most people, blueprints for success we're still using today. The more we study Denisovan genetics, the more it looks like the ancient women were biological ambassadors, carrying adaptation tech between groups, helping our species conquer the planet's toughest spots. So here we are, 40,000 years later, still carrying the biological gifts from women whose names we'll never know, faces we'll never see, but whose legacy lives on in every breath taken at altitude, every deep dive, every immune system fighting off a new bug. The Denisovans show us something profound about human evolution. It wasn't just us replacing other human species as we spread. We were absorbing them, learning from them, in a way, becoming them. Every time scientists sequence another ancient genome, they find more of this hidden history, more ghost populations, more proof that human evolution wasn't a straight line, but a tangled web of encounters, exchanges, adaptations. But one thing shines through. Mothers always find a way. Think about those Denisovan mothers. They survived ice ages, climate chaos, environmental upheavals that would scare us silly. They raised kids in caves, on frozen plains, on windswept plateaus. and somehow, they passed down genetic wisdom that's still keeping their descendants alive today. Honestly, we're only just scratching the surface of what they gave us. Every year brings new discoveries, new genetic variants, new evidence of how these ancient women shaped not just our biology, but our entire destiny as a species. In a very real way, they're still here. Not as memories or artifacts, but as living, breathing parts of us. When a Tibetan kid takes their first breath at 15,000 feet, when a freediver shatters a record, when someone's immune system beats back a nasty infection. That's ancient DNA working. That's the Denisovan mother's legacy. We like to picture human evolution as this grand march of progress, with us as the finish line, but the Denisovan story? It teaches us something different. We're not the end. We're a collaboration. A biological remix of all the human populations that came before. Those mysterious women left us more than genes. They left us a reminder. Survival isn't about replacing what came before. It's about weaving together the best of everything that came before. They show us that the most powerful legacies are often the ones we can't see or touch, but live on in the very core of who we are. From one tooth to the story of human survival. From one teenage girl to the genetic heritage of millions. The Denisovans might be gone, but their mothers live on in ways that would astonish even them. Their ghosts are in our genes, and honestly, that's beautiful. Somewhere in your DNA, the echoes of a 40,000-year-old girl are still alive. She never knew you, but part of her is still here, and always will be. So I'll leave you with this. How many other forgotten lives are still hiding in our genes, waiting for their stories to be told? If this glimpse into humanity's ghost past moved you like it did me, like this video, subscribe, and let's keep uncovering the mysteries that made us who we are.